Welcome back to our Inside Out lifestyle.
Before we get into it, I'm Therese, this is Rungu, and these are our four babies. We're setting up a homestead in rural Mozambique. Come follow along as we build and create a life that is ours from the inside out.
When you last saw us, we were moving back to Mozambique from South Africa to purchase land and start our own homestead. We had 28 days from the day of purchase to the day that we had to move into the house to get everything sorted out. That meant building the house from scratch, getting our electricity connected, our plumbing installed, as well as getting a well on site. We made our deadline and settled down quickly, having adventures and starting our homestead. Now that we're all moved in, we're ready to start growing. We have to make a plan with all this sand. It cooks the house. Also, I desperately need to start eating food from my own garden. Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. It's a quiet and warm Sunday here on the homestead, and it's just me and the animals at home. And I wanted to have a chat about the plans for the household and for the homestead, and like what is the priority now for this phase of our lives. So I thought I'd make myself some breakfast, and you can watch Pipoka inevitably fight with me for my papaya, and I'll explain to you what my thinking is behind the next phase of our lives, which is going to be growing our own garden. So I think many people have, gotten to that point where they know that we as citizens have very little control over what food we're receiving when we just go into supermarkets. We don't know what kind of chemicals they're using, we don't know what kind of pesticides and insecticides and blah 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 is happening. And why did I say happening anyway, whatever. And we do want to know what we're eating, we do want to know what we're consuming, because so many health issues that are coming up are due to bad diet, or due to poor diet, and that's just because we lack the information. Now, I have an excessively long list of allergies and intolerances, and feeding myself is difficult. It's really difficult because I'm cut off from so many things. Like, there's so many options that other people have, like just go into the supermarket and buy something off the shelf, that I just simply cannot do. And I'm going to list my list of allergies on the video because it's extraordinarily long, but I just want to talk about one of them, which is sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide intolerance is something that's becoming more and more common, and sulfur dioxide is one of the main preservatives, one of the easiest, one of the cheapest preservatives that companies in the food manufacturing industry use. It's actually quite common even for people to put up sulfur dioxide sprayers inside of their pack houses and spray all their fruits before they package them and send them off to market. So it used to be that they would just be like, for example, on grapes, you have that little whatever, like a little cover that keeps the grapes fresh, and that one is infused with sulfur dioxide. And and I don't know when, because whatever, at some point in time they realized they were supposed to tell people that that's what they're doing, so they started telling people that's what they're doing, and then it became quite a common practice to just preserve everything with sulfur dioxide, especially when you've got to export stuff. It's just so much easier, and no one goes to the shop and buys a fruit that's looking sad and tired. So if they want to sell fresh, plump looking things, this is what they've got to do. So we're all to blame in this situation, but for this reason it makes it very hard for me to shop. And sulfur dioxide is not my only allergy and intolerance, and I don't eat meat, and I still want to live a balanced life. Like, I still want a balanced diet. I still want to be getting in all the things that I need to be getting in, and I have an iron deficiency and whatever. The point of the matter is that my diet has been a journey of finding what works and what doesn't work. Like, what am I actually intolerant to and allergic to, because the tests were not accurate. People didn't believe me. Multiple doctors, when I went to explain my symptoms, even suggested that I was using recreational drugs instead of taking me seriously and doing proper tests or observations or anything like that. So it's been really difficult to be taken seriously, number one, and number two, to find solutions that work and to find out what are these active ingredients that are making me ill, so that I can stop eating them. Thankfully, and I say this thankfully, like, it's not really thankfully, but like, my mom has the same problem, so we've been on this journey together, and so thankfully we're in this together. Not thankfully she's also got this issue, but thankfully we're in it together, and that's helpful, because she could be like, listen, by the way, I can no longer eat this and this, and I'd be like, oh, okay, well, listen, by the way, I can no longer eat this and this, or be careful, no one tells you that they put gluten in soy, whatever it is. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the story. So for that reason, the main priority now is going to be starting our kitchen garden and growing as much produce as we can so that I can consume safely and my animals can benefit from this consuming clean, safe food, and so can everyone else, of course Rungu as well as all the children who spend their many hours here on the homestead with us. So yes, so that is the idea. In the area, like the stuff I'm cutting at the moment, this papaya, this guava, passion fruit, like all these things are sourced from local farmers, and I know where this comes from. I know who grew it, I know the person who sold it to me, I know everything, I know the whole life journey of this fruit. And my neighbors have been really wonderful in letting me into their farms to see how they do things, and like what kind of fertilizers they use, and whether or not they use pesticides and things like that, so that I could know what I'm consuming. Even so far as like with meat, because I don't eat meat, but I do buy meat for my animals, because for example Pipoka and Pumpkin are on a raw diet. They are very open. They allow me to see what they're feeding their chickens, what kind of vaccines they're using, etc., whether they're using hormones or not. Like, they've been really good about that, and that's just simply because of the kind of community I live in. But not everyone has that luxury of knowing exactly where everything comes from. So anyway, in the effort of being really healthy, of having really clean food, and of having variety, because also like it is quite limited. What I can get here in the market is quite limited in terms of the kinds of things that I'm used to having or would like to have, so that I can balance out my diet. So for example, something like broccoli I don't really get a hold of easily. Maybe once in like a month you'll find a broccoli somewhere, and it's definitely imported, so it's not ideal. Anyways, so yeah, so I am going to be getting someone in who is, I believe, a master farmer, because she feeds her family the whole year round and she has a big family, and I hope you guys are all gonna get to know and love her as much as we do, because yeah, she's great. But anyway, it's also easy for us to know and love her because it's Rungu's mom and she's also my neighbor, and so her and I have we have a really good relationship. We've known each other for years now, but I am always just in awe when I see like what she's feeding her family and how she's feeding her family and how she's collecting and saving her seeds, and like she's really good and organized, and I want to be like that. I want to be her when I grow up. Anyway, so I've asked her to come in as a contractor to help us get going and set it up and manage it, basically be the manager of the kitchen garden. We're calling in English, and in Portuguese we're using the word mashamba, which translates to farm. But anyway, to come and manage the food, basically, like thinking about succession planting, thinking about what kinds of foods are going to grow where with the climate, because also we have a very, very different climate here to what most people are used to. We have to grow a lot of our food in the winter instead of in the summertime. So I also want to see how we can do this so that there's yours, so that we can still be growing even during the summer, when it's getting warmer and things don't really want to be exposed to that much sun. So yes, let's see what we can do. Okay, is that Nami? I don't know if anyone else's cat loves fruit this much. All of my friends say no, so I'm curious to know from you guys. Tell me if your cats eat this much fruit, like this much fruit. Like, and when I say this much, I mean like Beboka has now stuck her nose into papaya, passion fruit, guava, and I didn't film it this morning, but my coconut. And like with the papaya, she eats this very soft part where the seeds are, you know, that like fibery part of it, and then she'll even chew on a seed. Ma'am, is it a good little fibery thing for you? I did Google this, friends, and I did speak to my sister who's a vet. Everyone said it's safe, she can eat this. Also, Pipoka is really smart and she knows what makes her feel ill and what makes her feel good, so I'm not very stressed about her. For example, she does not consume milk. It's the only thing that she's ever eaten that made her vomit was milk. Are you a cat or are you a monkey? Tell us the truth. Mommy, mommy. Love you, Picky Poka.
Okay, team. Now it's time to plan. We have a massive property, we have plenty ideas, we have plenty desires, and I have a lot of seed packets. Yes, it's true. This is foreshadowing of what's to come. But now it's time to divvy up the space and decide what's going to go where. So I'm going to show you the property and explain Rungu and I's thinking, because we've discussed this off camera, and then you guys can kind of follow along what's going on. Okay, so the first section we're going to look at is the part that has Rungu's house, or the guest quarters if you want, and what we want to do there. So Rungu has this inspiration that he got from walking around the neighborhood. He wants this meadow of flowers. So you'll notice that we've already drawn a line in the sand that goes from the garden gate all the way around to the composting bin, which is basically going to be the allocated area for this meadow of flowers. And we're going to look at some wildflowers from the area and maybe some things from South Africa. We'll see what kind of seeds we can get. But basically that whole section is Rungu's flower garden. Then we've got this part of the land, which is where the big house is going to go eventually, my cement house. And we're not going to touch that for now. We're going to plant grass up until that borderline there, and that's about it. Like, that's the only thing we're concerned about, is doing lawn up until there, and everything to the fence we leave. Moving into the property, the space between my current house and the parking lot, this for now we would like to just make a lawn and a fire pit. You can already see some of the bricks that we've placed there where we would like to put the fire pit. And the reason why we want to make this all lawn is because the sand is cooking us. Literally, it's just too much. So anyway, so that's all going to be lawn, and it's going to meet up with the current lawn that is already existing. This borderline of flowers we're going to remove and move to Rungu's meadow of flowers. But then you can sort of see like how there's going to be lawn all the way around this fire pit, and then meadow over there, and the wild grass that's already in the big house's spot. Okay, as you can clearly see, there's a bunch of material leaning against the tree. Just ignore that for now and let's focus on the space in front of us. That is where my office is going to go. So you can see this coconut tree on the left and the cashew tree on the right. And then there in the back is a long a long coconut and a cashew behind it. That's the corner of the property. So in this kind of triangle, if you want, is where my office space is going. So this is my dedicated office space. So if we look at it slightly from the left, you see this is where I drive in with my car. We currently have a whole load of long grasses in here, as well as some people's matapa, so they're like farm crops, but that's going to come out soon, and this little part of the road will stay. But the rest of it until the fence is going to become my office space. My vision for this space is a long stem garden. So I want tall grasses, wild grasses, and tall varieties of flowers in this space. And the idea is to attract pollinators, but I really want this sort of wild look to keep going. I really enjoy wild grasses and this natural sort of bushy gardeny feel. I also drew a lot of inspiration from seeing other people's gardens that look like this and from walking around in the community itself and seeing these beautiful like purple and white and red grasses. On top of that, I've already mentioned that I want a kitchen garden, and we do have a beehive, a wild beehive right next to our property. So let me go show you.
Okay, so I'm at the garden gate and I just want to show you the beehive.
So I'm obviously not going to go and stick my nose in the beehive, but it's here under this cashew tree. Okay, there's like a whole lot of grass protecting the entrance. I don't know how the bees did that, but they did it. And they're here right outside the garden gate in this bottom part of the cashew tree. So like you can see here, it's really close to the property, which is really, really wonderful. However, these bees have this beautiful environment that is full of attractive flowers and plants for them to go pollinate. So for them to come into our garden, we really have to stand out. And this is why I've said yes to Rungu's Meadow Garden, despite the fact that I don't actually really like flowers, and also why I want to have a lot of tall flowers in my long stem garden around the office. It's to really encourage these pollinators to come and visit our kitchen garden, essentially. Okay, and now for the most exciting part, which is the kitchen garden. So, if we're standing with our back to the office, which obviously doesn't exist yet, and we look to the south, you can already see that we are growing a little papaya forest here.
Sí, já morreu.
And everything to the right is going to be where we put the green tunnel. I'm so excited about this. So I want to have a shaded growing area as well as open area boxes. So in front of us is where the open area boxes will go, the uncovered boxes. So I'm actually going to plant a little border just to like sort of cut off that area from the rest of the garden, just to create little natural borders on the property that distinguish between long stem garden and kitchen garden. And I got a bit ahead of myself and already planted one section of it. So we do actually have like some existing trees in here, like we have a lemon tree and I can't remember what this tree is, and then we've got a bamboo that we've got to work around, as well as this watermelon that's spontaneously growing over here. And it actually, let's just go and have a look at it, because it has a really giant watermelon in it too. Really giant watermelons in it already, which we will harvest soon. It's so exciting. So the kitchen garden is already giving, guys. It's already giving. Okay, and then finally there will be a border along the fence line over here and across again, just to close off those boxed areas. Which now brings us to the boxes inside. So I want to have essentially 10 boxes, 5 side by side, and then the pathways in between. So let's go get our materials. So we've got, as you remember, there was the materials that we put against the tree. We've got these bricks that we're going to use for the fireplace, and then these wood planks, there we go. The planks, which are coconut planks, and these are going to be used to make the boxes. So they're not going to be raised beds, but they are going to be distinguishable. And when I was doing research about how I wanted to plan my kitchen garden, I actually saw this on Instagram, and I really, really liked this idea. Like, it was pretty simple and it looked quite affordable to get done, especially when you consider how much compost you have to get into that box. You know, a raised garden bed is very compost heavy, and considering that we have an enormous garden that we need to plant, we don't want to be focusing on bringing in that much compost. Okay, wait, Ringo has something to say. Let's hear him.
I was like, you don't think, can I make those things that I made like this? Yeah. You see those flowers there? I made like it's a turn. This one.
Okay, great. So yes, Ringo's going to make a turn in his garden, and I'm going to show you some other random things, like this bed over here, that we're going to use the border that already exists, and then the border with the kitchen garden, and we're going to plant a bunch of things in here. In the meantime, we also have like a bunch of trees that Ringo has sprouted from seed that are getting ready to go into the garden. And then we're also getting a giant pile of mud delivered, which we're going to be using in the garden beds to support moisture retention. Okay, folks, Rungu has already started, and my fingers are itching to get in here. There's a lot of work to be done. As you can see, Rungu's already started on his line, which is looking really beautiful. And he's collected like a lot of his plants already for his own border. I'm gonna get on some of this weeding these really, really stubborn onion-like plants, because I just want a garden already. So see you all next Sunday.